Hi, good morning, Faith, and thanks for joining me for Career 180 Women in Security, Episode 2. So today, joining me is Faith Opiyo from the Netherlands, who is a threat hunter. Hi, good morning.
Good
Or good evening
morning.
for you. Yeah.
Good afternoon, actually.
Yes.
Thanks for having me here.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to talk about your story. So let's dive right in. Um, so I wanted to start by saying, by asking, was security your first career choice? And if not, what did you pursue for second or even third?
Um, that's a tricky one. I think the correct answer is no. My first choice was networking. I started off as a network engineer, where I was dealing with deployments and maintenance and support of different network infrastructure. But during that time, a lot of the projects that I dealt with um, had network security as a focus. So, an example would be deploying firewalls within the branches, or securing the wireless infrastructure, or setting up VPNs. So, I, I didn't do security engineering as a role, but my job did entail a lot of security engineering. So that's why it gets tricky. And
So
after,
go ahead.
yeah, and uh, after a few years, when I was in networking, I found that I enjoyed the security aspect of it. And that's how I slowly transitioned into security. So my first choice was networking.
Interesting. So was there, as part of those projects, was there someone who was particularly influential in leading you in that security direction?
Yes, actually, I had two people. So the manager that I had in one of the companies, Mary Kay, was really good. he he pushed me forward. I would, during our one-on-ones, I will tell him that, hey, I'm interested in playing around with the Palo Alto Networks firewalls. Can I have this project? And he's like, you want it? Take it, do it. Um, the same thing with the wireless infrastructure. So he didn't see me as a limitation for
Mhm.
him. So long as I could do the job, he was fine with it. So that was the main person who who made me even consider going into security, because I went into security after playing around with the Palo Alto Networks firewalls. Um, the second person was also a manager. In 2017, while I was working at Palo Alto Networks, I had one of my managers was Ilya. Actually, my direct manager was Ilya. And I went to the Grace Hopper conference in the US.
Okay.
And when I came back, I I spoke with Ilya, and I told him, Ilya, listen, I know I'm doing network security right now, because at that point I was working in technical assistance center of Palo Alto Networks. I told him, I know this is what I'm doing, but I really want to be a threat specialist. I want to just focus on the security aspect of it. Um, is there is there a path that we can um, mold for myself? And he's like, that's what you want? Let's go for it.
Wow.
So those two people, yeah, and they were managers. So those two people were really influential in my career. Other than that, I have been blessed with the teammates that I have worked with in Palo Alto Networks. That was just a squad,
Yes,
and
yes.
and also right now the two that I have are really good.
So I typically like to ask about the education paths that individuals or women in security take, but I'm particularly interested in your path because you, as a threat hunter, are in one of the hottest market skills, one of the hottest job roles, and so you indicated that you started in network, and so And then you just talked about how your manager helped you define a path to get into the very specialized field of threat hunting. So, can you talk a little bit more about how you define that path, or what education or stretch projects or things like that led you to be a threat hunter?
Okay, so I personally have a bachelor's in telecommunication engineering and a master's in info communication systems. It's a
Okay.
long story. It's a long word in Russian. I studied in Moscow, and after I think it was my fourth year or something like that, I thought to myself, with this telecommunication engineering, if I go home, what am I going to be?
Hmm.
I would not imagine myself climbing poles. Sorry, I'm stereotype, but I could not imagine myself climbing poles to fix the telephone lines. So I went to um, I went to the director. There's actually a Cisco Academy at the bottom, at the ground floor of our university, which I had never noticed in my 4 years of my career, of
Wow.
my school life. So I went there, and there was a lady, and I just said, okay, is it possible for me to speak to the director? Um, and she was like, why? I said, is this a personal matter? If I went to him. She let me through. I went to him, and this was Selivanov, Vladimir Selivanov. So I went to him and I told him, "Listen, I would really like to go into your CCNA class. I don't know what CCNA is all about, but I think it sounds fancy. I would really like to go to it, but I don't have the money for it because I was on scholarship.
Mhm.
I didn't have money to I didn't have money. So he said, "Yeah, okay, I'll give you a chance." And for 6 months, we had evening classes where I would attend my CCNA twice a week, and I I really loved networking. I remember that time, and I would lab it out almost every single night. I would go back and um, use my Cisco packet tracer or my GNS3 to just set up the environment and try troubleshooting BC BCG and OSCP protocols, and that was really interesting for me. But yeah, and that led me to networking. But after some time, when I started playing with wireless infrastructure and the networking infrastructure, the firewalls, I I tended to lean towards the security aspect of it.
Okay.
So I started just self study. I am an avid learner. That's one thing. I love doing it, and even sometimes when I'm mad or pissed off, I'll just take a book and read. um, yeah,
So it
so
sounds like
just
it's a personal interest as well. So you have this passion.
yes, yes. Plus, I knew that I had to give it my all.
Mhm.
No one will give me it. No one will just give me anything.
Right.
First of all, from where I come from, you have to be good at what you're doing. So I have spent hours
Yes.
self learning. I've done my certifications, and
So that's
yeah.
interesting when you said from where you came from. Did you feel? Can you talk a little bit about that piece that you said about where you came from, and then also if you felt any barriers along the way and how you overcome them?
So I'm Kenyan. Um, I come from Kenya, and I I grew up with my aunt, so I didn't really have my parents. And my aunt took me through school. However, I did learn at a very early age that I had to be very good at what I'm doing
Mhm.
to achieve anything. Um, so yeah. I think
And
it was just
did you feel
ingrained.
that there were particular barriers in being a woman, or just, from your background, just needing to be the best?
I Yes, I have felt it. I felt it along the way, and and it's it's complicated. It's a
Okay.
complicated topic because some people. I remember also in one of the jobs that I was in, there was a manager who I needed to work with him
Mhm.
because I was in charge of the EMEA. I was in charge of EMEA, but he was a local manager, so I needed to talk with him, and he just wouldn't see me. Once I went with my colleague to speak with him with regards to a certain project, and even though I was the one who was in charge of that project, and my colleague was just the secondary. When I was asking him questions, he would look at my
Your
colleague,
colleague. Oh, wow.
yes, and answer and say, "Tell this girl, blah blah blah." And this is in Russian.
Right,
So,
right.
tell
Okay.
this girl, blah blah blah. And then I'm the one who has the answer because my colleague basically will have to listen to what I'm saying
Right.
um, as a primary engineer for that project. So there have been situations like that, uh, but I think with my experience in Russia, I somehow grew a thicker skin.
Yes.
I try a lot not to see it, but it is there and it is very rampant. And there have been positions whereby I thought I deserved it, but I couldn't get it. And there are positions whereby people will ask you, "Who do you think you are?" I've been asked that, man, a year ago. So it's a really difficult um, journey to walk as a woman,
Mhm.
and especially as a woman of color. But I'm optimistic. The job that I actually ended up doing, there's several people who've come back and said, "Hey, can we have you back? Uh, can you be like Faith?" So
Oh, what a
it's
great.
it's sorry, I'm not trying to blow my
No,
trumpet.
I love
it's
it. Toot
it's just
the horn. I
it's
like
just
it.
yeah, it's been a rough journey, but I'm somehow still here, and
Yeah,
I
very successful career. So I'm curious, as we kind of wrap up. I think you've had a very inspiring journey, and what you're saying, most recently about overcoming certain challenges of being a woman or a woman of color. If you were encouraging women to pursue a career in security, what would be some advice that you would have?
um, the what I would tell them would actually be something that I try to tell myself every day.
Okay.
I don't live by it always, but just go for it. Don't hold yourself back. That's been the hardest part for me. I try to. Yes, I'm a go-getter, but sometimes it's like I know my place. I and it sometimes I just tell myself, okay, that's not your place. Sit back, relax, just take the back seat,
Mhm.
and that has not always been the case. I've always gone for what I wanted, but I found maybe by changing careers, sometimes it's that voice of, yeah, that's not your place. Um, so if you can just put that, if you can tune off that voice and go for it, just give it a try. You don't have to be the best. Um, there will always be people who doubt you. There will always be people who look down on you and think, why? But if you're full of integrity and you know that you can do the job, um, why not go for it? So that's
Perfect.
that's what I will say.
That's perfect advice, and I think that's the best advice to end on. And you've created a wildly successful career, following that or silencing the negative voice and barreling through. So I can't thank you enough for talking with me today. Thank you so much for inspiring others to pursue a career in security. You inspire me to be better, to be more technical. So thank you so much, Faith, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.